twins facing desperation, millionaire's shocking response after their mother died this morning. The morning light spilled through the window, but it couldn't warm the chill that gripped the small, now silent house. Panic buzzed in the air like a swarm of hornets. Only hours before, Ella and Jack, the twins, stood by their mother's bedside, watching life slip away like grains of sand. Her final breath echoed in their ears, a haunting reminder of fragility. They were left with a gaping hole in their hearts and no idea how to survive the world without her. As they stood in the living room, the enormity of their situation pressed down on them. It wasn't just the loss of a mother, but the weight of her secrets and a shocking inheritance they were about to uncover. The twins weren't just ordinary kids, they were the children of a once proud millionaire, a woman whose wealth had masked a life full of mysterious dealings and hidden truths. The phone rang, a piercing sound that shattered their grief and sent them both jumping. Jack, trembling, reached for the receiver, dread pooling in his stomach as a familiar voice echoed through the line. It was Thomas, their mother's lawyer, and he had urgent news. The deep, gravelly voice was unsettling. "You need to come to the office immediately. There's something you must see." Just as the call ended, Ella felt the strange vibration in her veins, a prickling sense that this was not a typical day. It was the beginning of something sinister. The rain began to fall outside, drowning their neighborhood in a dreary haze. With each droplet hitting the window, an unsettling thought crept into their minds. What did their mother leave behind? What financial chaos lay ahead? The riches of their inheritance felt tainted, twisted into a web of lies and half-truths. They shared a glance, and unspoken agreement passed between them. Curiosity mixed with dread cocooned their hearts. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." Back on the phone, Jack hesitated before pressing the button to call Thomas back. The thought of unearthing their mother's hidden secrets made his chest tighten with an icy grip. He glanced at Ella, who was bouncing nervously on her heels, anxiety radiating in the air between them. Who would want their mother's possessions, or worse yet, her money? The question itched at them. The clock ticked ominously. As they stepped into the lawyer's office, the atmosphere thickened with an unsaid tension. Pictures of their mother filled the walls, a joyful woman smiling amidst facades that now felt like masks hiding darker truths. The twins could sense that something was very wrong. What awaited them in those grim documents? What consequences hung like storm clouds over their heads? Each word in that office could shatter their fragile world, and the thought of the secrets still lying in wait clawed at their minds. As they walked into Thomas's office, Jack felt the weight of the world pressing down on him. The smell of old books and polished wood was thick in the air, but it did nothing to mask the swirling chaos inside him. He glanced at Ella, her wide eyes reflecting both fear and determination. They had come here for answers, but what would they reveal? Thomas sat behind a massive oak desk, his expression grave behind thick glasses. "Thank you for coming," he began, his voice low and somber. "I know this is a difficult time for you both." He paused, locking eyes with each twin as if assessing their strength to face what was to come. "Your mother had many assets, but there are complications." Jack's heart raced. What kind of complications? The lawyer pushed a stack of documents across the desk. "It's not simply a matter of inheritance. Your mother's financial affairs were under scrutiny. There are unresolved issues with her business dealings. You need to understand this is more than just money." Ella swallowed hard. "What business?" "Your mother invested heavily in several ventures, some of which were not legal," he explained, voice barely above a whisper. Jack felt a cold sweat break out on his forehead. Their mother, a secretive businesswoman. Was everything they knew about her just a lie? I don't care about the businesses or the money, Ella said, her voice trembling. What happened to her? Thomas leaned back, pinching the bridge of his nose. It's rumored that she had enemies, people she crossed along the way. Some of them may not be willing to let go of old grudges. A chill ran down Jack's spine. The weight of the words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Enemies? This was not just about a will or inheritance, it was about danger. What do you mean? Jack spat, a hard edge creeping into his voice. Do you think someone might have hurt her? Thomas sighed, glancing at the door before continuing. I can't say for sure. But I suggest you both take precautions. There are folks who would do anything to protect their interests. You might also want to consider why you were not informed of your mother's illness earlier. It raises questions. Ella and Jack exchanged horrified glances. Had their mother been in danger? Had she known? Why hadn't she come to them? Questions pounded in Jack's mind, drowning his thoughts in a surge of confusion and fear. Take this, Thomas handed them a file. It contains the details of her accounts and the individuals involved. I'll help you, but you need to be cautious. They left the office, clutching the file like a lifeline, resolve intertwined with dread. Outside, the rain was falling harder, blurring the world around them into a wet haze. Jack felt a surge of anger mixed with fear. How could their mother have kept such secrets? As they turned to head home, a figure stood in the shadows across the street, cloaked in darkness. Jack's heart raced. Was it just a trick of the light, or could it be someone watching them? Ella, do you see that? He pointed, his voice shaking. She squinted into the distance, pulse quickening. I don't know, Jack. The figure moved, slipping away into the rain-soaked alley. A sense of urgency surged through Jack. They had to uncover the truth. They had to protect themselves. In that moment, their paths were tangled in a web of danger and uncertainty, and the echoes of their mother's life began to haunt them. What lurked beneath the surface of her legacy? They knew one thing for certain: the next steps would lead them deeper into the heart of a mystery, and each revelation might cost them more than they were ready to pay. But what if it meant exposing the truth at any cost? The rain drummed on the pavement, punctuating the tension that hung heavy in the air as Jack and Ella made their way home. Each step was burdened by the unsettling new knowledge about their mother. Treachery surrounded her legacy, and neither of them knew how deep the rabbit hole went. Jack glanced sideways at Ella, her face etched with concern. We need to figure out what she was involved in, he said, his voice barely a whisper against the storm. But how? Where do we even start? Ella shook her head, her forehead creased. I don't know. The file Thomas gave us. Maybe there's something there that can point us in the right direction. An icy shiver ran down Jack's spine. Opening that file felt like peeling back layers of buried secrets, revealing wounds too raw to touch. They reached their apartment, and as Jack fumbled with the keys, a horrible thought struck him. What if we're not alone anymore? What if they're already watching us? Ella leaned closer, her breath catching in her throat. You think those enemies, are they watching? Only one way to find out. Jack pushed the door open, and they stepped inside. The familiar smell of home offered little comfort as he glanced out the window, scanning the street beneath the flickering streetlights. Nothing. Let us look at the file, Ella urged, plopping down at the kitchen table. Jack joined her, pulling out the documents. They were a mess of numbers and names, some highlighted, some crossed out. The chaos of it felt daunting. Here, Ella said, pointing. This name Victor Crane. It says here he was involved in some of her biggest investments. I've heard that name before. Jack squinted as he read the fine print. Crane. That's the guy known for running shady operations. A wave of nausea hit him. Had their mother been entangled with someone so dangerous? There's got to be a reason she kept it from us. Ella bit her lip. There has to be a connection. We should find out more about him. Just then, Jack's phone buzzed violently against the table, shattering the silence. He snatched it up, glancing at the screen. A text message from an unknown number flashed ominously, "You need to stop digging. It's not safe for you." His breath caught, heart hammering in his chest. "Ella, look at this. Someone knows. What do we do?" She whispered, panic creeping into her voice. "Stay calm. If they're watching, we have to be careful. We can't let fear take control." But inside, Jack's mind raced. Their mother was taken too soon. What was she involved in that led to this? Were they next? The rain splattered against the window as if responding to his turmoil. He opened the file again, clawing through the pages like a desperate man searching for salvation. There were scattered notes, names, but nothing that made sense. Suddenly, a small, sealed envelope slipped from between two pages. "Jack." Ella pointed as he picked it up, his fingers trembling. He could feel the weight of secrecy radiating from it. "What is that?" "I have no idea." He ripped it open. Inside was a slip of paper with a hastily scribbled address and a message, "Meet me at midnight. Everything will change." Jack exchanged a worried look with Ella, the gravity of their situation pressing down heavily. "We have to go," he decided, adrenaline surging. "We have to find out what this is about." "Are you sure?" Ella's voice trembled, but her eyes shone with a flicker of defiance. "They were in this together." "Yes. It's the only way to uncover the truth and to protect ourselves." As night crept in, closing them off from the safety of daylight, the stakes grew higher. Shadows lurked around every corner, and the thought of the figure from earlier re-entered Jack's mind, a reminder that danger was just footsteps away. They gathered their things, the weight of the envelope hanging ominously in Jack's pocket. The hour was growing late, and uncertainty gnawed at their resolve. What awaited them at that address? Would the truth shatter everything they knew? The night was still young, and shadows were just beginning to close around them. The rain thickened, heavy droplets hammering on the rooftop as Jack and Ella stepped into the night. The familiar streets transformed under the cloak of darkness, shadows stretching like ominous fingers ready to snatch them at every turn. "What do you think they want?" Ella asked, her voice quivering slightly. They walked briskly, glancing around nervously. "I don't know, but we can't lose our nerve now," Jack replied, trying to sound more confident than he felt. "We'll get answers, one way or another." Their mother's dirty secrets haunted them, but the invitation to meet someone who seemed to know more about it set their hearts racing with both fear and hope. They shuffled down the sidewalk, footfalls muted by the relentless downpour, the only sounds the rhythm of the rain and their own pounding hearts. As they approached the address scrawled on the paper, a dilapidated warehouse loomed before them. It stood at the edge of town, shrouded in shadows and mystery. Jack's gut twisted painfully. This was not just another errand. "This place," Ella whispered, her voice barely audible against the relentless storm. "Are you sure about this?" "No turning back now," Jack said firmly, edging toward the entrance. He could feel her tension rising, but he took her hand with a reassuring grip. She squeezed back tightly, and for a moment, both found solace in that small connection. Pushing through the door, they stepped into the damp, echoing interior. The air was thick, stale, and what little light there was flickered weakly from a lone bulb dangling from the ceiling. "Hello?" Jack called, the sound swallowed by shadows. Silence. Ella's eyes darted around, taking in the grim surroundings. "This doesn't feel right," she whispered, her voice trembling. Before Jack could respond, a low voice cut through the silence. "You're bold to come here." Startled, they turned to see a figure emerge from the darkness. A man in his late 40s, wearing a long coat that clung to his tall frame. His face was obscured by the shadow of a hat, only his piercing eyes glinting in the dim light. "Victor Crane," Jack breathed, recognizing him from the file. Panic surged through him. This was the man who could hold the keys to their mother's hidden life, but also a dangerous adversary. "What do you know about our mother?" Ella's voice was steadier than she felt as she stepped forward, determination in her eyes. Your mother was deeply involved in things you cannot even begin to imagine, Crane replied, calculations flickering in his gaze. She had her reasons, and you've dug too deep. Why are you warning us? Jack shot back, his anger boiling just beneath the surface. Why not just let us suffer? Crane chuckled darkly. Suffering is what makes you strong. And trust me, you have no idea of the strength you'll need. Jack's heart raced, uncertainty twisting through him. What do you mean? Crane leaned in slightly, his eyes narrowing. The truth isn't always a blessing. Sometimes, it's a curse, and it will change everything you thought you knew about your family and yourselves. Ella shifted nervously, feeling the weight of his words seep into the air. Are you saying our mother was involved in something dangerous? Dangerous is an understatement, he said, straightening up. You have questions, but answers come at a price. Are you willing to pay it? Jack and Ella exchanged a glance, a silent debate raging between them. This was no ordinary conversation. This could unravel everything or tie them deeper into their mother's shadowy legacy. What's the price? Jack asked, brow furrowing. Crane smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Your trust and perhaps a little bit of your innocence. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. Jack felt a chill run down his spine, and as he looked at Ella, he could see the fear mirrored in her expression. They stood at a precipice, staring into the unknown and wondering just how deep the rabbit hole truly went. Could they handle what came next? Just then, a loud crash echoed outside, followed by shouts. The storm raged on, and dread clawed at Jack's chest. Something's happening, he whispered to Ella. Let us go, she replied, her voice steadied by adrenaline. As they bolted for the door, whispered secrets curled around them like the rain. Racing against the clock, they were thrust into a new layer of danger. What awaited them out there? One thing was for sure: forcefully uncovering the truth was not going to be easy. The night held more secrets than they could handle, and time was running out. The rain lashed down harder as Jack and Ella burst out of the warehouse, panic fueling their flight. They stumbled onto the slick pavement, heartbeats pulsing in their ears. The noise outside was chaos, a jumble of voices twisting in desperation. What is going on? Ella gasped, trying to catch her breath. Jack peered into the shadowy night, strange silhouettes forming amidst the downpour. People were darting here and there, urgency dancing in every movement. He locked eyes with a nearby figure, a man clad in dark clothing with something glinting in his hand. Get back inside! The man yelled, panic breaking through his gruff demeanor. They're looking for you. Jack felt a jolt, fear and adrenaline intertwining. Who's looking for us? He could hardly formulate the words as confusion blurred his mind. Before the man could respond, shouts erupted from the entrance of the warehouse they'd just fled. Another figure, partially obscured by shadows, staggered out into view, breathless and frantic. Run! The new arrival screamed, eyes darting wildly. They're coming! Ella turned to Jack, sheer terror painted across her face. We have to go. She grabbed his hand, urgency coursing through their limbs. They sprinted past the man, barely aware of the growing danger behind them. Each step echoed against the asphalt, the rain mixing with the salt of their sweat. Where are we supposed to go? Jack shouted, Glenn's warning rattling in the back of his mind. I don't know. Ella cried back, eyes wild. She blurred the lines of fear and determination, pulling him forward as the shadows shifted ominously behind them. Just as they rounded the corner, a loud crash echoed from the warehouse. Jack couldn't help but glance back. The dim glow of the building illuminated a chaos. The warehouse doors were flung wide open, and figures in dark clothing spilled out, their movements streamlined, almost animalistic. We're not safe here, Jack said, panic flaring in his gut. We have to find somewhere to hide. Over there. Ella pointed to a narrow alleyway. It twisted between two towering buildings, promising temporary refuge. They dashed inside, adrenaline driving them as their paces quickened. As they reached the alley's end, they ducked behind a dumpster. The sound of footsteps echoed, drawing closer. Jack held his breath, pressing his back against the cold metal as adrenaline surged. They huddled together, feeling the weight of the world crush down on their shoulders. "What do we do?" Ella whispered, her voice barely audible over the pounding rain. "Wait it out," Jack said, his heart hammering so loud he feared it would give them away. The distant shouting grew clearer now, each word slicing through the tension. He saw them go this way. Ella trembled beside him, her grip tightening. "What if they find us?" Jack shushed her gently and strained to listen. The shadows swirled, carrying with them an air of danger that set his nerves on edge. Just then, the alleyway lit up briefly as headlights swept across them. A car had stopped at the entrance. A moment passed in strained silence, and then a heavy voice cut through the dark. "Search every inch. They can't have gone far." Panic rose up in Jack's throat. Every instinct screamed at him to move, but he knew they had to be cautious. As the figures began moving deeper into the alley, Jack's mind raced. The warning from Crane rang in his ears. Were they really prepared to uncover the truth? "We need another way out," he muttered, scanning their surroundings. Desperation gripped him tight, and every second felt like a ticking bomb. "Should we just wait?" Ella's voice was small, but there was something else, their determination edging out fear. "No. We need to act. The longer we stay, the worse it gets," Jack replied, his voice steadier than he felt. That he took a deep breath, his heart pounding in sync with the storm outside. They needed to outsmart whoever was hunting them. But what if the truth was as dark as the night surrounding them? They glanced at each other, sharing a beat of silent resolve, and then they bolted from their hiding spot, ready to plunge deeper into the unknown. As they raced toward the street beyond, a figure stepped into their path, cloaked in darkness. An all-too-familiar voice cut through the night. "Going somewhere?" It was Crane. Jack's heart sank. Had they just run from one danger into another? "Now, I believe we have some unfinished business." Jack's pulse quickened, the sound thundering in his ears. Crane stood there, a smirk barely visible beneath the shadow of his hat, a predator savoring his prey. Ella squeezed his hand tighter, fear flashing across her face. "Crane!" Jack spat, anger mixing with panic. "What are you doing here?" Crane stepped forward, his demeanor unfazed by their evident dread. "I'm protecting my investments," he said smoothly, each word dripping with menace. "And right now, that means you two need to come with me." "Or what?" Ella countered, her voice trembling yet defiant. "You think we're just going to walk into a trap? Is that what you think this is?" Crane chuckled darkly. "You misunderstand, I'm not your enemy, yet." The shadows shifted as he gestured to the looming figures in the street. Jack turned just in time to see silhouettes move closer, narrowing the space around them. Panic clawed at him, and a plan sparked in his mind. "Ella, we need to split up," he whispered, his strategizing pulse racing against their mounting dread. "I'll create a distraction. You know." She shook her head violently. "We stick together. Always." But Jack felt the weight of urgency. "Trust me," he urged, desperation sparking in his voice. "It's our only chance." Crane rolled his eyes, clearly enjoying the tense standoff. "How cute your little Romeo and Juliet moment. But it won't save you. You're surrounded." Jack glanced toward the alley entrance, cold dread hung heavy in the air. Then he spotted something glinting against the pavement, a small shard of glass. It was a risk, but the risk of staying was greater. "Ella, distract him," Jack hissed, while he quietly reached for the shard, its jagged edge sharp against his fingers. "What?" Ella's eyes widened. "Just do it." Suddenly, Jack lunged toward Crane. As he did, he flung the glass shard right at the man's face. Crane instinctively recoiled, allowing Jack to sprint past him in one fluid motion. "Go, now!" Jack shouted back to Ella as he ducked into the bustling street, drawing the heat away from her. The rain poured relentlessly, but the crowd surged around them, offering both anonymity and confusion. Ella hesitated for a split second before twisting to follow Jack. She darted after him, heart racing, adrenaline kicking in. The moment was a blur. Expertly dodging between people, they nearly collided with a food cart that sputtered in the downpour. Ella felt a bead of hope trickling in. What if they could really get away? But behind them, Jack heard Crane's voice erupt through the chaos, razor-sharp and furious. "Get them! Now!" Ella glanced over her shoulder, her breath quickening. The dark figure sprang into motion, relentlessly following. Jack felt the weight of dread settle back in his gut. They needed a plan, and fast. The street was a whirlwind of life and danger, and time was running out. "Over there." Ella pointed to a narrow door tucked beside a shop, almost hidden from view. "Let us go." They rushed towards it, bursting through the door just before the shadows closed in. Inside, the room was dimly lit, filled with boxes and dusty furniture. It smelled old and forgotten, but it was better than being out there. They pressed their backs against the door, straining to hear the distant noise outside. The chaos continued, shouts and footsteps echoing like thunder. "What do we do now?" Ella gasped, wrapping her arms around herself as if she could ward off the fear. Jack's mind raced, each idea more desperate than the last. "We need to find out who's behind this and why they want us." As they caught their breaths, a low rumble of recognition dawned in Jack's mind. This place felt eerily familiar. There was something more here than just safety. Something vital. What if we're not just pawns in their game? He whispered, a shocking revelation dawning. What if we're actually part of something bigger? Suddenly, the door rattled violently as fists pounded from the outside, sending their hearts into a frenzy. "Quick, we have to move," Jack urged, but as he turned, he spotted something glimmering beneath a dusty old tarp nearby. He shivered as he pulled it away. It was a dusty box with stark lettering, a family crest. "Ella," he breathed, eyes wide. "You need to see this." Just as Jack's revelation unfolded, the door buckled, and he braced for whatever nightmare awaited them. In that moment, Jack knew they were about to uncover a truth far more dangerous than either of them could comprehend. What if Crane was the key to unraveling the entire conspiracy, but at what cost? Jack's fingers trembled as he reached for the box. Dust and old memories swirled in the air, thickening the tension. He couldn't shake the feeling that this box held the missing pieces of a puzzle, one that could explain everything: the threats, the shadows, and Crane's menacing smile. "Jack, we can't stay here," Ella urged, her voice barely above a whisper as she glanced nervously at the door. The pounding grew louder, more insistent. The shadows outside were closing in, and they needed an escape. He forced himself to focus, forcing the heaviness in his chest down. "I know, but we have to see what's inside first." Jack pulled the lid open. The interior was lined with faded velvet, revealing documents, photographs, and what appeared to be an old key. His heart raced. This could be the key to something larger, something that could turn the tide in their favor. "Look," he said, pulling out an envelope. It bore a seal he recognized all too well. His family's crest. He turned it over in his hands. This is my family's." "What does it say?" Ella breathed, peering over his shoulder. Before he could answer, the door rattled violently again, drawing their attention. Jack looked back just as splinters flew from the wood where the hinges groaned under the pressure. "It's now or never," he shouted, stuffing the envelope back in the box and grabbing the key. "We need to find a way out." Panic surged through him as he shoved the box into Ella's arms. "Let us go." With his heart pounding in his ears, he dashed to the other side of the room. There had to be another exit. As he searched frantically, Ella flipped through the contents of the box, and her gasp drew him back for just a moment. "Jack, Look! She exclaimed, holding up an old photograph. It showed a family, a man and a woman standing proudly with 2 children. The man was familiar. Jack felt his breath hitch. It was his father. But the woman? Who is she? Ella asked, eyes wide with realization. Your mother. Jack squinted at the photo. It felt like a ghost was staring back at him. I don't think I've ever seen her. But she looks like me. Like us. Another crash against the door brought him back to the present. There was no time to dwell on memories. Come on. Jack urging Ella to follow him. He spotted a small window at the back of the room, nearly hidden by debris. We can fit through there. Are you sure? She questioned, doubt creeping into her voice. It's our only shot. He shoved debris aside and pushed the window open, the rusty hinges protesting. The rain had let up, and the cool night air hit them like a refreshing slap. Go! He urged as he climbed through first, landing with a soft thud on the damp grass outside. It felt like liberation, but their freedom was fleeting. Ella followed, albeit clumsily. They hit the ground together just in time to hear the door finally give way, crashing open. Jack's heart sank as 2 figures dressed in dark clothing stormed in, eyes scanning for their quarry. Over here. Jack hissed, pulling Ella away from the light. They ducked behind a nearby bush, their breaths heavy and labored. The figures moved quickly inside the building, searching, hunting like wolves on a trail. Jack fought to keep his heart from leaping out of his chest. We can't go back that way. It's a dead end. What now? Ella asked, fear written across her face. Let us circle around back to the street and see if we can blend in with the crowd, he suggested. As they began to move, Jack felt the weight of the box in Ella's hands. What if it's not just about us? He questioned, brow furrowing. What if there's a whole story tied to this? A reason we're being hunted? The night was still, but the air hummed with danger. His instincts screamed at him that they were players in a game far larger than they realized. Jack, Ella whispered, the urgency in her tone rising again. We need to go. But as they began to slip into the cover of darkness, Jack turned back for one last look at the old building. A figure emerged, subtle but unmistakable. Crane. His gaze pierced through the darkness, scanning the surroundings as though he could see right through them. In that moment, Jack understood they were not just running to survive, they were on the verge of uncovering a truth that could expose everything they thought they knew about themselves, and then the chase began anew. What secrets were waiting for them in the shadows? The air was thick and oppressive, the kind of silence that shrouded everything in a layer of dread. Jack and Ella pressed against the cool earth, their bodies nearly molded against the damp ground behind the thick bush. Jack could hear the pounding of his heart, mingling with the creaks and groans of an old building slowly sinking into itself. Jack, Ella whispered, her voice trembling. What are we going to do? We can't just sit here. He could feel the weight of her worry as he nodded, though he knew only half the plan. They had to keep moving, but where? Jack strained to see the figures moving within the house. Crane's imposing stature made his presence loom larger in the shadows. Stay low, he cautioned, scanning the area. Once they're inside, we have to make a break for it. Follow my lead. They waited, breaths held, as the figures began to spread out, methodically sweeping through the room. Time felt warped. Each second stretched painfully long. Suddenly, one of the men stopped, pointing toward the bush. Did you see that? He called to the other. Fear jolted through Jack, and he instinctively clutched Ella's wrist tighter. Every muscle tensed. This wasn't just a chase anymore, they were prey. No one else here, the second one responded, though he sounded uncertain. Let us check the back. If Crane says they're close, they're close. As the 2 figures headed toward the back of the house, the smell of freshly dampened earth filled Jack's nose, mixed with the sharp tang of adrenaline. Now. he urged, leaping out from behind the bush. Ella followed instinctively, legs pumping as they sprinted toward the shadows of the side alley. They darted down the narrow lane, hearts hammering in their chests. Jack's mind raced alongside his feet. Somewhere in that box lay the pieces they needed to find what was true, but they had to survive first. "Do you think they saw us?" Ella gasped, glancing back over her shoulder. "Not if we keep moving," he replied, determination flooding his voice. "We need to get to the street. Blend in with the crowd." Only a few more steps, and they hit the main road, bustling with pedestrians oblivious to the pursuit lurking just behind them. Jack pulled Ella close, urging her to look casual, as if they were just another set of friends out for a late-night walk. But panic surged when he spotted a familiar face within the throng. A friend from college, Andrew. He felt a rush of relief and humiliation all at once. Would Andrew help them, or condemn them? Before he could decide, Crane's men emerged from the alley, eyes darting around. "Jack! Ella!" Andrew shouted, his voice slicing through the chaos. Jack's heart sank. They had been so careful, and now they were exposed. "Don't!" Jack hissed, but it was too late. Crane's men turned their attention on Andrew, and Jack felt the shift in the air, danger crackling like static electricity. They've got nowhere to run. One of them shouted, and adrenaline surged through Jack's veins, propelling him forward, but Ella hesitated, watching Andrew's face twist in confusion and fear. "Go! Get out of here!" Jack knew it was their only chance. Andrew hesitated, but the urgency in Jack's voice must have triggered something in him. He took off, merging with the crowd as Jack reached for Ella's hand, pulling her along. They ducked into a nearby shop, relief washing over them as they slipped inside. The smell of coffee and pastries wrapped around them, creating a brief bubble of safety. "What now?" Ella asked, wide-eyed, glancing around the small cafe. "We find out what's in that box," Jack replied, a glimmer of determination igniting in his eyes. "It has to connect to everything." As they moved toward the back of the cafe, Jack's thoughts spiraled. What was in the box was not just about their survival. The weight of their past, of secrets long buried, pressed against him heavily. He felt it deep in his bones. But the sound of the bell jingled as the door opened, and his heart dropped. "Jack, they're here," Ella whispered, squeezing his arm as the figures of Crane's men entered, scanning the room. Instinct kicked in. They had to find a way out again before everything unraveled. Did they possess the key to the truth, or would they become victims of a path forged by secrets? With anxious eyes darting around for an exit, Jack steadied himself. The night was far from over, and there was no turning back. Jack's heart raced. The dim cafe, once a sanctuary, felt like a trap now. Ella's grip on his arm tightened, her wide eyes reflecting sheer panic. He could feel the menace radiating from Crane's men who had just stepped inside, their presence a palpable threat that seemed to suffocate every breath they took. "Look for a way out," he whispered urgently, scanning the room. The cafe was quaint but lacked any obvious escape routes. He noticed the back kitchen door slightly ajar, tempting him like a siren's call, offering a shred of hope hidden behind the tension. "What if they see us?" Ella's voice quivered, betraying her fear. "We move fast. We don't let them corner us," Jack urged. His voice was low but laced with urgency. He could almost hear the clock ticking down, each second intensifying the dread suffocating them. As the men conversed in hushed tones, Jack caught snippets of their conversation. "They can't have gotten far," one of them said, his voice gruff, betraying apprehension. Jack wanted to scream, to push through the panic, to remind them that they were in danger. But silence was their only ally. Grinding his teeth, Jack made a decision. He gently tugged Ella toward the kitchen. "On three," he murmured, eyeing the men. Ella nodded, the determination hardening her features. 1, 2, 3. They burst through the kitchen door, the metallic smell of frying oil hitting them like a wall. Jack's mind raced through their options. The back exit was just a few feet away, a promise of freedom lying beyond it. But a heavy weight settled in his stomach. Sound would attract attention. Would they be fast enough? They dashed across the kitchen, moving quietly, adrenaline forging their path. Jack glanced back only once, and his gut twisted at the sight of Crane's men entering the kitchen moments after them. Their expressions held a mix of confidence and a trace of impatience. Desperation surged through Jack, propelling him forward. "Out!" he barked when they reached the exit. Ella shoved the door open, and they stumbled into an alleyway, the cool air invigorating them, but the relief was short-lived. Jack's skin prickled. He didn't know where to go next. A haphazard-looking wall loomed on one side, trash cans lining the other. There was no time to think. He could almost feel the breath of danger hovering behind them, chasing them like a shadow. "Run!" he yelled, and they sprinted down the alley, heartbeats matching the rhythm of their footfalls. A rattling noise echoed, and Jack glanced over his shoulder. One of Crane's men had spotted them, his shouts piercing the early evening air. "That way." Ella pointed left just ahead, where the alley opened to a small side street. An unfamiliar wave of courage ignited in Jack. They had to find a direction, any direction. They flew to the street, the thrum of nightlife bustling around them, a stark contrast to the terror they had escaped. Jack spotted a group of people up ahead, their laughter bright against the danger that shadowed them. "Blend in," he hissed, action-filled eyes darting for a moment. He grabbed Ella and positioned themselves inconspicuously among the crowd. Breaths quickened but remained shallow. They weren't out of the woods yet. As they walked, Jack focused on maintaining an exterior of calm, but inside, panic rattled through him. The thoughts of their path, what awaited them next, consumed him. They needed to get off the street, to a safer place where they could regroup, but with every tick of the clock, anxiety pulled at his mind. What would they do now? They still hadn't retrieved the box, and worse, they had exposed Andrew. Jack's resolve strengthened. If they were to survive, he had to act fast. From the corner of his eye, he saw the silhouette of a figure watching them, hidden partially in the shadows, barely visible. Was it one of Crane's men? His heart dropped again, fear surging like a tide. "Ella, stay close," he murmured, adrenaline electrifying his veins once more. As the figure moved closer, Jack braced himself. "Who are you?" he called out, his voice barely concealing the desperation rising within. But as the figure emerged, Jack felt a sense of dread settle deep in his gut. The truth was about to turn their already chaotic world upside down, and they may have just walked into a new danger. "Jack, what do we do now?" Ella whispered, her voice shaking. "I don't know, but we can't stop." Their past was catching up, and whatever lay ahead may unravel everything they thought they knew. The sense of urgency increased as they faced the unknown lurking in front of them. Would they finally uncover the truth, or fall prey to the web of secrets entangling them? The figure stepped closer, revealing a familiar face, a face that would change everything in an instant. The crowd buzzed around Jack and Ella, their laughter and chatter slicing through the tension still gripping the twins. Jack's heart thundered in his chest. This had become a nightmare far beyond anything they imagined. He turned to face the figure emerging from the shadows, fighting an urge to bolt. A flash of recognition swept over him. It was Nora, their mother's old friend, the one who always brought laughter to their home. Now, she looked worn and seriously shaken. "What are you doing here?" Jack gasped. "It's not safe." "We need to talk," she urged, glancing nervously over her shoulder as if expecting someone to pounce from the crowd. "Follow me." Ella and Jack exchanged a glance, confusion entwined with fear, but there was nowhere left to run. They couldn't risk the threat of Crane's men. Protecting themselves was paramount. Nora led them into a small cafe, its warm light inviting yet filled with muted shadows. The aroma of roasted coffee wrapped around them like a blanket. Jack's instincts kicked in, the space felt safer, at least for the moment. They huddled around a small table, Jack's brow furrowing as he studied Nora. What do you know? He asked, urgency curling in his voice. She leaned in, her voice low. Your mother was mixed up in something dangerous and kept more than just secrets from you. She was trying to protect you. Pain flashed in her eyes, and Jack felt his stomach twist painfully. Protect us from what? Ella pressed, her voice steady but the tension radiating off her like heat. Nora took a deep breath, her gaze darting to the door before meeting theirs again. From people who wanted to silence her. Your mom discovered a network. There were more than just enemies. I think they wanted her out of the picture completely. Jack's heart dropped. But she's gone. How do we deal with this? Finish what she started, Nora urged fiercely. If you want to understand her life, you must follow the leads in that box. She glanced back at the entrance, her nerves palpable. We don't have much time. She didn't have to say it twice. Jack felt the weight of urgency like a boulder crashing down. Let us go, he said, standing up while Ella nodded, clutching the box as if it were a lifeboat in a storm. They stepped out onto the pavement, the night cool against their heated skin. Ella's hand gripped the box tightly, casting a shadow over their next moves. They had to get answers and find a way to confront the danger head-on. What's the first step? Jack asked, feeling the weight of responsibility as the eldest. Nora looked determined. We can't be reckless. Let us find Victor Crane and confront him. He can't keep running from the truth forever. A shiver went down Jack's spine. It was a dangerous move, but at this point, they were out of options. Okay, then let us go to his office. The rain had stopped, leaving a chill in the air as they maneuvered through the streets, keeping a watchful eye for danger. A palpable tension crackled between them, underscored by the knowledge that they were walking towards their destiny. Minutes later, they stood in front of a building that loomed, shadowy and imposing. Ella took a deep breath, glancing at Jack. This is it. Maybe this is where the truth lies, he said, an edge of determination lacing his tone. They strode into the building, a mix of resolve and fear propelling them forward. The reception area felt cramped and suffocating. Jack's palms were slick against the papers in his pocket. We need answers, he muttered. The receptionist eyed them skeptically, lifting a brow. Can I help you? We need to see Victor Crane, Jack stated, his voice steady, betraying none of the fear roiling in his gut. Moments felt like hours as they waited. Then a deep, familiar voice echoed through the halls. Send them in. Jack traded apprehensive looks with Ella before they stepped into the office where the shadows seemed to swirl tighter, weaving an atmosphere of threats. Victor Crane sat behind his desk, a calculating smile gracing his lips. Jack, Ella, you've come to play. Jack kept his chin high, inhales deepening. We want answers. About our mother. Crane leaned back, fingers tapping lightly against each other. Your mother was embroiled in a world you won't ever fully understand. She thought she could control it. She was wrong. The weight of his words hit them hard. What did you do to her? Ella shot back, fierce and unyielding. She made choices that had consequences. I was a business partner, but she had visions that didn't align with the realities of our world. And you two digging into her life is risky for you, he warned, his tone dark. Jack felt something shift within. You can't threaten us. We're not afraid of you. Crane's eyes narrowed, the mood venomous. Fear is the least of what you'll feel, children. You're playing with forces beyond your grasp. Ella's voice trembled, but her resolve remained. We are not backing down. We will get to the bottom of this. You can't scare us into silence. Crane smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Very brave, but bravery can lead to stupidity. Just then, the doors to the office burst open, and 4 of Crane's men flooded in, grim faces set in stone. Jack's heart raced. What do we do? He muttered to Ella, sensing danger was closing in fast. Nora lunged forward, a fierceness igniting. Get out of here. She hissed, pushing Jack and Ella toward the door. I'll handle this. No. Jack shouted, panic erupting in his chest as he reached for her. But Ella grabbed his arm, dragging him through the door just as Nora confronted the men. "Come on," she urged, pulling him down the corridor away from the chaos. They plunged into the street, the city now swirling under the veil of night, shadows shifting around them, awakening fears but also fostering a glimmer of hope. They had escaped, but now what? Jack and Ella knew their path. They needed to continue to chase the truth. Whatever was awaiting them had to be faced, and whatever it took, they would find it together. They'd uncover their mother's secrets and take down the web of deceit threatening their lives, a quest for truth that bound them in ways deeper than blood. As they moved through the streets, Jack's resolve only grew stronger. "We're in this together, no turning back." And as uncertain shadows loomed large behind them, they made their way further into the night, driven by raw determination, to reclaim not just their mother's legacy, but their future. Urgency tinged the air as they stepped into the unknown, a dark labyrinth of resolve and bravery. They would meet whatever awaited them head-on and untangle the web of lies entrapping their lives. This was just the beginning. They could no longer pretend their mother hadn't left them a legacy stained in secrets. No, today, they began to fight for the truth, however dangerous, however painful it might be. Now's the time to join this journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next explosive stories unfolding. Smash that like button now to keep the algorithm alive. Flood that comments section with your passionate reactions and theories. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who deserve to witness this heart-pounding conclusion. You need to support the channel to stay part of this incredible saga.